talk about IoT, there's always a lot of buzz around it, and there's a lot of talk around what the potentials are. What I would like to let you depart with today is also having a little bit of insight as to what it numerically and also from a business perspective does for us, and what type of values it can actually unlock. So we'd like to make it a bit concrete. But first, if you talk about the construction industry. Now, of course, the main driver of wealth in general, the almost singular driver of wealth, is actually productivity growth. And if you index industries back to 1965 at 100, and you actually look at the productivity growth in general across the board, across all industries, productivity has increased by about a factor 2.5. If you look at the construction industry, it has actually declined slightly since 1965. And that is due to a lot of reasons. That's due to inner city construction, that's due to more stringent regulation, it is due to, for example, some of the commodity booms that we've gone through. But it is also due in a very large part to a fact of limited innovation in the industry in general since 1965. We believe that we are now, with the connectivity and the digitization part, we're actually at the forefront of huge productivity improvements and gains, particularly in this industry. Needed because the vast majority of construction expenditure is based on public money. And obviously efficiencies there are highly needed as we move forward. So, where do we come in? Volvo Construction Equipment is headquartered here out of Brussels, one of the 4 divisions of the Volvo Group. And we basically bring to market these big yellow machines, large trucks, bulldozers, excavators, those type of machines. Since 2004, we have created a platform and we've connected our machinery to an off-board platform. And since 2008, we in fact connect all of our equipment that we send into the market to the internet. We have on average about 450 sensors on each machine. We have up to 6 GPS points on each machine, 4 IMUs, etc. There's a lot of infrastructure that measures and senses data that we basically bring to the cloud via 3G, 4G, satellite, Wi-Fi, etc. So obviously that generates a lot of data. And let me first and foremost say 2 things. The data that is generated by that is not owned by Volvo, so it's owned by our customers. The reason why we work with it is because we create value-added services for our customers on that on a very explicit agreement. The data, the operational data that comes from our equipment is obviously the ownership of our customers. A second important point is that, and Gartner came out with this piece of research the other day, that only about 2% of data that's collected worldwide is actually being utilized. And that is certainly one of these challenges as we move ahead and do more and more devices become connected and more bandwidth will be consumed by data. Of course, this entire question of how do we relate data consumption versus data collection is going to be an extremely interesting one, also in view of, let's say, security and privacy. So how do we utilize data? And I'll give you 2 examples later on, but just as an introduction, we basically look at data analytics. And let's be honest, all of the investments in IoT, be it technical or be it onboard, be it offboard, all of these are costs until you come to this extremely important point of data analytics. And this is, of course, where data is transformed into insights that allow you to drive, let's say, business decisions. That means that the investments are tremendous, investments in terms of developing services, but also tremendous in terms of developing the proper IoT stacks and infrastructures that are needed to actually generate that data. So data analytics and also all the advances that are in data analytics, particularly deep learning, machine learning, artificial intelligence, where we're on the forefront of a huge disruption, will have a huge impact. And also from a European perspective, I would dare say, is a vital one to take a look at. Now, how do we look at data and how do we actually generate value out of this data that we collect? We basically have 3 different buckets where we create services around. The first one is basically how our machines are becoming more efficient. And you can think of, for example, fuel efficiencies, or how we can lower cost of repair and maintenance, or how we can increase the operational usage of a machine, the uptime of a machinery. So that's about the discrete individual machine. How can we make that machine perform more efficiently? A second bucket, and this is arguably the bucket where more value can be unlocked, is not so much how we can optimize our equipment, our assets individually, but how we can optimize the production processes of our customers. And there you basically, and the key word, and it came on the screen a little bit earlier, the key word there is of course interoperability, because this is where all the assets, for example, on a construction site are tied together and they have to operate in unison. This is where some of the larger challenges lie, but also this is where some of the bigger opportunities lie. And the third bucket that we look at is basically analyzing data, getting insights from that on how we can basically improve the delivery of our products and service to the market, be it for example, higher quality level or more efficient distribution system, etc. So if we look at applications, and we basically have applications and services in all three buckets, but I would like to give you two examples. And the first one is about preventive maintenance. And there's this mantra in IoT that says real-time data is too late. And in many ways it is, because it is about predictability. The more you can predict, the more you can prevent. If you look at our assets, machines, let's say if you look at it from a total cost of ownership perspective, approximately 2/3 of the cost of an asset actually lies in its usage, not in the acquisition of that product. The more we can prevent and the more, let's say, unnecessary breakdowns or costly breakdowns, obviously that has a big cost impact, but it also has an immediate impact on the service and the uptime of that machine. Our customers tend to really start to lose money if one of these machines actually becomes inoperable or there's an unexpected downtime or an unexpected failure. So what we've set up is we've set up a call center both here in Europe, in Ghent actually here in Belgium, and one in the US, where we monitor the, let's say, machine on a continuous and real-time basis. And we monitor error codes, and we understand that certain error codes lead to certain failures. And of course, the more we understand those error codes, then these call centers, basically what they do is they call our customers, they call our dealers, and they say, please go out to this asset that is in location Y to, let's say, for example, repair, do preventive maintenance before we go into, for example, engine failures or transmission failures, which are really costly and really consuming. Now, just to give you some numbers on that, what is some of the effect that this has done? And this is a measurement that we took when we started to introduce that service about 1.5 years ago. And we looked at what is the actual repair cost, what is the average repair cost of an asset in the period 2011-2014, and what is the impact of having this predictive maintenance or proactive maintenance service in place versus those areas where it's not. And then what you clearly see is that where we have this, and we call it an uptime service, where this service is in place, that the actual repair and maintenance costs go down by about 50%. So that's a huge impact. That's an absolute huge impact. If you look at the areas where that service was not in place, actually what we've seen is that the repair and maintenance costs went up. And that is largely due to a difficult downturn in our commodities industry in general, where we do see that our customers are starting to skimp on repair and maintenance, right? Which is a typical thing of penny wise, pound foolish. But obviously you see the huge impact. So if you start to then put numbers behind what this connectivity and data analysis actually brings, this has a direct impact both for us as a machine provider. It reduces our warranty costs, for example, tremendously, but also for our customers in terms of uptime, downtime, and actual repair and maintenance costs. So that's one example of the first bucket. I'll give you very quickly a second one, which is about this second bucket on how do we optimize, let's say, production processes at our customers. Now, you may have seen construction sites where in the old days there would the survey people would be standing there with their apparatus, and people drive a stick in the ground and you dig until that level. What is happening now more and more is that these maps of these construction sites are digitized and are available via screens inside these machines. And basically, real time, the actual status of a construction site is being monitored, be it via drones, be it via other sensor equipment. And that means just like an orchestra, if you have an orchestra on stage, the director that makes sure that all the instruments are working in unison. Very similar, all the assets on these sites are actually working on that same digital real-time map. We are now bringing the first semi-autonomous machines on the market doing that. So right now people still drive up to a place and they start digging, for example. The industry is moving very quickly to automizing that. What are some of the productivity gains? And I know you're signaling me for the second time here, so we'll do a little bit faster. But what this has as well is obviously a huge impact. And what we see at our customer bases where we implement these digital, let's say, real-time productivity and machine control elements, is that actually the productivity on site increases by 20 to 50%. So that has a huge impact. So I wanted to leave you with two concrete examples, and then I'm sure we'll dive into some of the challenges later on in the panel. Thank you.